The strength of our church in this territory is its 3,681,066 members filled with faith, hope, and courage. Our doors are always open. Meeting in 23,319 churches and congregations, large, small, outdoors, or online. It's amazing to know that God is present in each one of them. The InterAmerican Division is comprised of 24 unions, divided into 156 local conferences. We spread the message through various means, including the 35 hospitals and clinics across the territory. In its 14 universities, many young people are trained daily to serve God in different professional fields. One theological seminar prepares pastors to serve the church membership and preach the gospel across Inter-America. This is a territory with millions of school-aged children. 790 primary and secondary schools deliver Adventist Christian education to 145,596 students through the dedicated labor of 9,879 teachers committed to serving God and humanity. 9 centers of influence work with creative ideas of evangelism to target various people groups. The gospel also travels by air and the internet. Messages of hope are shared 24/7 through television programs produced in 3 languages and through broadcast by more than 90 radio stations. The Inter-American Division is this and more. Every day, our church works to preach the gospel to more than 307 million residents across its territory.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us for Defining Your Health. I'm your host, Tracy Lewis, and I'm super excited this morning. You know, there's been a lot happening, Mother's Day, so many things happening, and we didn't forget, but we caught up. We caught up this morning. So we have Miss Christy Castillo here with us this morning, and we'll be talking about autism awareness. If you missed it, there was a whole week of activities. So Miss Christy is going to just help us catch up a little bit and share some information that we need to know. There's trainings, there's inspirational things happening.
Yeah.
So many things happening. Miss Christy, we're happy to have you this morning. How are you feeling?
I'm good. I'm exhausted because it really wasn't a week of activity. It was a month of activities.
I know, on preparation.
Oh gosh, yes. But you know, the excitement and the feedback and everything fueled my energy for the month.
I can imagine.
And so now it's sort of like, you know, when you have that high and you're kind of crashing. So yes, but a little exhausted. But
Okay, well, you
still
know,
really happy.
I'm sure our viewers will agree. I think there's a poster up for the week, the lighted up blue. I want you to tell me about the color blue and why you chose that theme.
Well, blue was decided by the United Nations to be the color for autism because it's supposed to be calming and cooling, so it's best for those persons. So the light up blue idea actually launched over a decade ago worldwide, where monuments would light up blue on World Autism Awareness Day, which is April 2nd. And so you had like Taj Mahal and the Eiffel Tower and Empire State Building and the Sydney Opera House. All these iconic places would go blue on that day, or sometimes it'd be like the weekend, you know, a couple days. And then that sparked this trend of countries doing that. And so actually, I was on a webinar in April where all the different Caribbean islands were talking about what they've been doing. And every single one of them had their own sort of light up blue campaign that would last for the month. And so, and they would do different things. Schools were encouraged to wear blue, etc. So we are actually late to the game. We started this last year, the Light Up Blue campaign. And last year, what we encouraged people to do was to wear blue on Fridays and post on social media. We had our blue ice cream because the ice cream shop is a really big supporter of ours.
I think
So-
I have some pictures with
the blue ice.
each districts, and I'm just gonna ask
Exactly.
to showcase some.
So yeah, we did that. And the first year we asked everybody to put the blue light bulb out. So this year we did all of that. Plus we asked businesses to invite us in to talk about blue. And that's where we started to do these presentations. And we call them Spectrum Speak. So we would go into a company, it might be in person or via Zoom, and we would just do, 30, 40 minutes to talk about autism, the impacts on families, a little bit of disability etiquette, and how best to interact with kids with disabilities.
Do you say that has been successful this year?
Oh, for the month, we did a total of 22 presentations in April. Yes,
And you
so I
did
think they're very good. Every single one. Some companies, like we went to Orange Walk and they brought all the pharmacists from like the De La Fuentes pharmacies together in one place. BEL, we did via Zoom different of their departments throughout the month. SMART got like 50 people together on a Friday evening. I was surprised they got so many to do
I'm
it.
excited because I didn't know the business community was very supportive.
They were. I was so surprised as well how many, because some we asked and they said yes to come in. Several called us. I got a call and I'm calling from Belize Healthcare Partners. We'd really like you to come and talk to her. It was that sort of thing where they were showing the interest. Belize City Council, we spent an entire day at town hall because we had like hour-long sessions and they wanted more. So we did the full sensitization training, which means we covered different disabilities, the full disability etiquette. And so, on Friday, 8:30 to 9:30, there was a group would come in. Then as soon as that was done, 9:45, we'd get another group. And so we spent an entire day with the Belize City Council, with their employees getting training.
What type of persons do these presentations attract? When you say a group comes
It
in?
was for Belize City Council. It was, I kept asking, I'm like, so where we had traffic officers, we had those working in accounting and finance and PR. All of these were people who wanted to volunteer to work for the Easter egg hunt. Because they have their regular Easter egg hunt. Well, this year City Council did 2 hours before everyone for families with disabilities. So they had the bouncy house, the egg the hunt, everything. We kept the music lower. It wasn't that much crowd because it was before. And so families were invited to come out, and the volunteers who attended that training, it ended up being like, I think, over 40 people. They would go take one of the kids' hands and then escort them around to help them find the eggs. And surprisingly, well, I shouldn't say surprisingly, it was really cool that the comment from most of the families were how attentive the volunteers were to our kids and how they were obviously trying. And so that made me feel really good because I really felt like they listened, they engaged, and they were applying. And so it was the same thing with Rotaractor. We did the same thing with the Rotaract Club of Belize. And they put on a whole event on Friday night for families with disabilities. And I say disabilities because it wasn't just all kids with autism. There were other disabilities. And so we did the full training with them as well. And they had the families at the Gateway, what's it called? Youth Gateway Center, on a Friday evening, and they had games and things, and again, they were paired one-on-one. And so this was the sort of thing. So we started with the Spectrum Speak, but there were several organizations that asked for more or asked us to come back in the future to do more because they wanted it. So
that's why you're
real
here
success. So a real success. I'm very happy with that.
I love the energy. When we talk about disabilities and we get so serious and sober and sometimes even sad. And, I love the energy that you bring. And I can see that it makes you so happy. And it's not like this huge burden that you would imagine because you find a way to look at it differently.
The idea is, and I tell people all the time, I go, I know there's obstacles. Like, we know there's not enough services in Belize. Countrywide, not nearly enough, not even this much enough. But okay, that's our obstacle. So how are we going to overcome it? It's the same thing when we have our family support group, and some parents are depressed, and own your emotions. It's hard to accept the diagnosis. Some days are harder than the others. But then it's like, okay, then how do we move forward? And it's the same thing I look at. We don't have these services that our kids need. So what are we going to do? We're going to train the parents. We don't have full inclusion in this country. We know this. This is not anything that we can deny. We don't even have ramps in all our buildings for those with, physical disabilities. We just, because of the disability desk at the Ministry of Human Development, got a wheelchair accessible bus. One bus for the whole country. It's an amazing achievement, but it's still not nearly enough. We are not inclusive. No. But then what do we do? So we have these presentation trainings. We do the sensitization. We do trainings for our parents so that you can't get speech therapy. Let's give you the tools so you can work with your child. And basically, that's how I have to look at it. Because if not, I probably wouldn't want to get out of bed in the morning. It would be so depressing. And so it's just, how do we overcome them?
It's inspirational that, it started with just one person.
Yeah.
One person making a huge difference. And now you have an entire team, entire country of supporters. And I dare to say it's because of all the groundwork, all that you've been doing. People are so much more receptive. They're excited to be a part. They want to invite you to come in. I mean, they need to get now.
It's great. I mean, the Countrywide Walk. Right? The first year we did it in Belize City, yes, and then Orange Walk and Belmopan, the officers had just been elected in and got their portfolio and wanted to do. So they did something small last year, but we really only had in those 3 places. This year, on the very same day, April 30th, Corozal had a walk and they had about 150 people. Again, this is all of them are partnered with town and city councilors and volunteers. So we had Payal Chalani, this young girl who did the work in Corozal to get people out of their path. Wonderful young lady. So 150 people in Corozal. Dorit Pascasio, our counselor in Orange Walk, she got 300 people. She did it in the evening and she had a walk and a glow run. It was so fun because I did the glow run, the entire 5K.
The glow run.
The glow run it started, well, actually the start time ended up being like 7 o'clock, and they give you all the neon lights things, and so because you're running at night, so everybody was all lit up. Yeah, because the walk started like 6:30 with our young kids and our families, and then you had the 5K run, and they had over 100 runners too. So in total, Orange Walk had about 300 people participate in that. So fabulous event. There were medals. I mean, Lorette took it to a whole different level. Benke, I loved what Benke did. The counselor out there, Evelyn, she had a poster competition. And then so when they did the walk, everyone came out with their posters with slogans, autism is not contagious. It's a different way to look at things. And so all the different slogans were on different posters, and they got 100 people to come out. Benke got 100 people. Santa Elena had a walk. They got support from their BDF because one of the presentations we did was at the BDF. And so they came out.
They just
BDF contacted us and called and said, "Can you come and talk?" And I said, "Please." We talked, and I said, "Come out and run." And they showed up, several of them. And so they had about 60 people in Santa Elena. Belmopan had their walk. They had the fire truck, whatever. And so they had about 80. Pauline, the counselor there, really did a good job. And they also had like a night in the park. Belmopan did several events. Dangri and PG for the first time did their walks, and they had about 25 people. So that just tells me I got to get down south and work some more. But hey, it was the first for them, and I appreciate both the counselors working there. We had a mom in PG, Miss Monique, that was walking from place to place, giving out flyers to encourage people to come out. So it's a start. And then San Pedro did a little different. They had a parade through the streets with their golf carts. So they had about 25 golf carts, each with about 4 people in it. And then they had sort of like an info fair. They had some kite flying and some activities, but we had representatives out there to talk about autism, to do some one-on-one if parents had concerns or questions. So we had a table, we were giving out flyers and everything. Actually, the flyers were given out countrywide. So they did that. And then, of course, Belize City, we led with Karen Rosita, because technically this was all her idea. Last year, she was the one that said, let's do a run or whatever. And I was concerned because of COVID. She's like, no. So Karen, we had music, there was dancing, it became a block party. It was, I was kind of looking around wondering if Carnival was here and it was September. But we ended up with about 450 people for our event on Saturday morning on April 30th. So when I say countrywide, I mean it was countrywide.
That's great.
Yes.
That's great work. And I know it's you're including everybody, but I'm trying to think about the children, like how excited they must have been
A lot
to
of
participate as well. And is there anything? I know we're trying to get to the adults, we want to get to those in leadership position and authority, but where are we when it comes to children learning about other children with disabilities?
We had some kids come out, and it was better than the first time. I think we're still, for families with children with disabilities, we're still battling with the idea of the stigma and being out in public and worry about staring and whatever. So the first year we had some of our families. This year there were a lot more. What I loved was we got a lot of like SJC, JC students, Excelsior High School. There were some of the high schools that came out to support. And I think that is our first step in building awareness and going through inclusion, that the kids can understand. Horizon Academy, the entire family, not just the kids with disabilities, but their regular students and those families were out that morning in full force in Belize too. The same thing, I think, where Dorette gets a lot of her supporters is from St. Peter's, because they have an inclusive school out there. So I think you see that because they started in St. Peter's. I was out there early April for a little parade that school had. And they brought we were dancing through the streets then too. But the whole school walked around, and it wasn't just our special center with our kids. The school came out to support. And so like I looked at that and I said, next year, what would be great is if St. Peter's does a parade again, that the other schools come out and parade with them to support these kids with disabilities. And that's the next thing about getting towards inclusion. And I must say, first of all, I missed it. We did have the wheelchair accessible bus in Belize City on the day of the walk. So they did pickups and they brought out some of those with physical disabilities, and the bus followed along in the parade too. So we had that going on as well. Yes.
And speaking about St. Peter's and inclusion, where do you think we are when it comes to church communities?
We have a way to go with the church. Some of our families will say, that their church is accepting of their kids. A lot of our families still say that they still feel nervous, or it's still hard to take their kids because of the stairs. The church might go quiet at some point, and then you'll have a child that has like what we call a vocal stim. So they might go, and they'll make these sounds, and then you can't help but turn around. And that is okay. But if you keep turning around and staring, or if the child is stimming and doing flaps or whatever, and you keep looking, that makes families uncomfortable. And so I still get a lot of our families that talk about how uncomfortable they feel, or they don't feel comfortable enough to even take the child to church, and what that is. And then there's the next level, because I've talked to several families who have also tried to get their children to have like First Communion, confirmation, and some of them have been denied because the priest has said they don't have the intellectual capability to understand. And and for me, this is a problem. Yes, our kids won't be able to learn the sacraments and everything like another, but there must be something we can do.
And we have a possibilities ministry in the Adventist community that specifically that targets inclusion of all children, persons with disabilities. And I think even with the possibilities ministry, we need to do more, like you said, because that's there, and we have special programs to highlight awareness. We have talks, with leaders as yourself. But when it comes to, like you said, that in church experience, I think, like you said, we're still a far ways off. We don't even realize sometimes that.
Yeah, I don't think that it's something that's deliberate or done maliciously. I just don't think, unless you're living it, you don't get it. And we do need to try. And even for those who have our severe intellectual disabilities, there must be things we can do to include them so that they can participate in various sacraments, or, however they can. And these are efforts that we have to make for our family.
We have a lot to think about, because even in our communities, we don't baptize very young children because we want them to be able to have to understand what they're making. So we have to think about other ways of inclusion as well, especially for children, right? So I'm not sure if you thought about it before, but what do you think, or what would you suggest that we can work on as a church community, like right now? Maybe
again, the awareness, understanding, so that you're less likely to stare. If you look back because you see a kid, you're like, okay, you'll know that he's special needs, so you won't keep looking back and wondering, why is this child making that? So your first step is your awareness, right? Let everybody understand what are some of the behaviors they might see or whatever. Because if you know what you're seeing, I feel like you should be less likely to stare. So you do that first step. The second step then after awareness is acceptance. How can we include them in it? So they might not understand all the sacraments, but how can they participate? How can we try and engage them? Or, you know, even if they will come and sit, can we make sure that we do a special prayer for them so that the families feel like, I want to deal with it and come to it and be a part of that community. Some of the things that, that goes a long way for acceptance is going to a family and saying, hey, how is it doing? How can I help? Asking these questions, because like for my version of help might be someone, if you have a child with a different disability, it might be a different thing. So a simple, how can we help with that community? I see you come once in a while, but not a lot of times to church. I know you have a child with disability. I know it's a challenge. How can we help? Is there anything we can do? For me, I can only take my son if I have someone else, because he will last 15 minutes or so, and then he has to run out and go, and then he'll probably come back in, but then he has to run out. And so if I go, I feel like I get nothing from church because I keep going in and out. So I've got to take someone with me, and we sort of trade off, right? And share that kind of burden. But if the church is offering and they're other kids, maybe we say, oh, if you will come, we'll be able to have some people that might be able to help you. So, maybe this kid will be able to help for 10 or 15 minutes to take the child outside if they need that sort of break.
It's not difficult. That's a very insightful suggestion, because I don't think we realize the little we do goes a long way. Awareness to know that, hey, you can't just, I know that we need to be reverent in church, but awareness,
it's some of it. Some of the kids have the sensory issues with the sound. And so that the singing, especially at different pitches, your sopranos might, bother someone. So I always tell our families, take headphones or earplugs or something. But if there's a quiet room and the family knows in advance, we have a quiet area behind church. So if you think your child is being, overstimulated or might have a problem, you can take them over here and, you can have some quiet time and do. So if I know my child, might have an issue or it might be rare, but it might happen, but there's a place I can use, I might feel more comfortable to take my child. The little steps we can take to do that.
Important things. There's that social and emotional acceptance and awareness, and then we come down to actual infrastructure for the children, and we have to do it. We can't, promote the gospel and say that we're inclusive if we don't make any kind of changes in this way. So I'm really grateful that you're able to share that, because even myself, I know several persons in our church community, and they have different on the spectrum children with autism, and I've seen parents, I see some of the things they're talking about, the staring, and some of them are like, why doesn't she tell the child to quiet down? Because they make these noises every now and again. So
it'll happen. Right?
We have a lot of work to do. You said something just now. You said if you don't live it, you don't really understand it. And there is the Parents Perspective blog on your page. I absolutely love that section.
Thank you.
Because even if we don't get all the jargon and we don't understand, diagnosis, all these things about the life world of parents and children living with autism, we can read these stories and you have so much insight into that world. And there's a particular story with little Maya. We have to go to a break in a couple minutes. But when we come back, I want us to look at that little story, because it did the world for me, and it made me realize that if we're struggling, we're not the only ones struggling to understand and accept. But even the parents,
we have a hard time.
We are all on the same page when it comes to this inclusion campaign.
Yes.
Right. So I'm so glad you're here with us, Miss Christy.
Yeah.
And guys, if you're not catching up for some reason, we had an episode with Miss Christy before. All right. We did diagnosing autism, stress management, understanding communication. I think you did some of those with us already. So this is going to be this is a follow-up, and we'll have much more opportunities to be with Miss Christy. So if you have questions, please leave them in the comment section below. We're live. We're going to answer them, and we'll leave Miss Christy's contact information with you. For now, we have to go to a break, and we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Pastor Emiliano Viamel.
And I'm Elder Shane Neal.
And we're the hosts of Hour of Power.
We are ready to pray for you and with you.
Prayer is the key that unlocks heaven's door. In Philippians 4, 6, and 7, God cautions us not to be anxious about anything.
Instead, in every situation, by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus.
Join us every Thursday night at 6 p.m. on our Facebook and YouTube pages, as well as Channel 98 on Central Cable TV, to experience this peace that passeth all understanding. You can join our global prayer family by praying that God continues to lead and bless this ministry.
By becoming a faithful viewer and inviting your friends and family to like and share our programs.
With your kind donations as well as your generous financial contributions.
Contact us at 501-613-9351.
Or send us an email at atn@cbm.belizeunion.org.
We are located at 10 3/4 miles Northern Highway at the Tubal Trade and Vocational Institute. Thank you for being a part of the ATN ministry.
And we pray God's richest blessings upon you and your family.
Accepting to be an adventurer means that we are adventurers everywhere. At home, at school, at play. Being an adventurer means that we are called to be honest, kind, and true. To always be like Jesus through and through. This World Adventure Day, on May 21st, 2022, we are calling all adventurers to shine for Jesus. We are calling you adventurers to be little lights and show others how wonderful our God is and how much He loves us. Go and light up the world, little lights. We can't wait to see you shine on World Adventure Day.
Hi, I'm Pastor Elijah Davis.
I'm Pastor Dennis McCullough.
We are the hosts of your Bible study series, Words of Wisdom. In 2 Timothy 3:16, God reminds us that all scripture is given by inspiration of God and is profitable for doctrine, for reproof,
For correction and for instruction in righteousness.
Words of Wisdom is a specially designed program brought to you by ATN in an effort to share the Advent message to our friends and faithful viewers who are yearning to build a growing and saving relationship with Jesus Christ. If you want to learn more about our rich Adventist heritage, basic fundamental belief, counsel on courtship and marriage,
Or simply a deeper study of God's written word, then join us Wednesday mornings at 10 a.m. on our Facebook and YouTube pages, as well as Channel 98 on Central TV. Join in and be a part of this special Bible studies effort by praying that God continues to lead and bless this ministry, by becoming a faithful viewer and inviting your friends and family to like and share our programs, by your kind donations and of course your generous financial contributions. Contact us at 416139351 or send us an email at atn@cbm.belizeunion.org. We are located at 10 3/4 miles Philip Golson Highway. Thank you for being a part of the ATN ministry. It is our prayer that you will keep the book of the law always on your lips.
Meditate on it day and night, that thou mayest observe to do according to that which is written therein. Then thou shalt make thy way prosperous and have good success.
More than 32% of adults over the age of 20 suffer from high blood pressure, according to the Center for Disease Control. High blood pressure is a major risk factor for cardiovascular disease and mortality, as well as among the top causes for other chronic health conditions. Anger and frustration has been shown to raise the level of stress hormones in the body, triggering negative health effects such as high blood pressure. That's a fact, but there's hope. Those with hypertension have seen dramatic benefits from learning to forgive. In one study, those who scored high on anger tests no longer required blood pressure medication when participating in a forgiveness program. As someone said, you simply cannot swallow a poison pill and hope the other person dies. So forgive now and see your blood pressure going down.
You might be asking, who are Seventh-day Adventists? Commonly known as Adventists, we are a Christian movement established in 1863. We have 28 fundamental beliefs and more than 20 million members. We also observe the seventh-day Sabbath. Worldwide, we have more than 162,000 congregations. We serve countless communities with our education institutions, with 2 million students. And 198 hospitals around the world. And it's all because we love Jesus.
All my life, I've been dealing with projects. I do a lot of research. Basically try to understand how different materials affect fires. It involves a lot of formulas and gathering data. I met this girl once in grad school, and we got to talk about all kinds of things, and also about God. It was great. I could share with her what I believed in. And then I got busy with my own research and realized I may have treated her like a project. Like, I kind of expected her to change herself. But people are so much more than projects. There's some kind of human connection to it. I think we're supposed to share our lives with those around us, but sometimes just being with them, being their friend, that's the best way to find true connection. And that's what witnessing is to me, relationships and friendships.
Are you taking heart medicines? Medications can give us a false sense of security. Even if a person takes heart medicines, eating a lot of saturated or trans fats, fast and junk foods, red and processed meats, sweets, and processed foods will still increase inflammation and make cardiovascular disease worse. That's a fact. But there's hope. A study of more than 31,000 adults found that you can substantially reduce cardiovascular recurrence beyond drug therapy alone by eating a diet rich in vegetables, fruits, and fish, and low in meats. A heart-healthy diet reduced their risk of dying from cardiovascular disease by 35%, a new heart attack by 14%, heart failure by 28%, and stroke by 19%. So eat your veggies. A healthy heart starts with a healthy meal.
welcome back to Defining Your Health. We want to thank our viewers for joining us this morning. Miss Irene, thank you for joining us. It's good to have your support. And we invite our other viewers as well to leave your questions, comment, like, and share. Because this is information that we want not just our viewers, but we want the entire church community to be aware of. We need to get on board. Autism Belize is leading the way. They are blazing a huge trail. And we don't want to be left behind in the church community. And there's this page, this blog. We mentioned it the last time, but I reviewed it this morning, and there's tons of amazing stories. But one caught my attention, and it was her forks and spoons. Where the heck is the spoon? This was an article written by a parent.
Yes.
On the website.
All of them on a parent's perspective is they're written by parents sharing a little bit, a glimpse into their lives, basically. Some of them are emotional as they've gotten a diagnosis. Some of them are funny. The idea is to just give you guys an idea of our everyday lives, what we're going through, how it is, because we're still trying to figure out our children too. So you'll see that in some of those, like we'll say, hey, this is what our kid is doing, and we have no clue what we're doing, but what it is. But they're supposed to be easy reads. We try and post one every week, but there are different parents who contribute.
And you started this blog, that's correct?
I started it. So the first year or so was all Mateo all the time. So I'm really glad now that we've had other parents come in. And there's also been other disabilities. We have one of our moms, Maricela, has a son with Downs. So there have been several stories with Zane and his crazy character.
I have to go back and read it.
Yeah, Steph, I love Steph's pieces too. Her son is hyperlexic, so he started reading at like age 3 or something.
Wow.
And so she's had some stories there about her little boy. So we've had different parents. Karish wrote one that I love about taking her child into a restaurant. We started that the first week of April. She has a daughter on the spectrum, and she'd been really busy with work and everything, so she planned a mother-daughter day, and they got all dressed up in their dresses, their hair done, and she took her daughter to the restaurant. They ordered their food, and they sat down to wait, and while they were waiting, her daughter started stimming. That's like when they might flap or have the vocal thing. It's something they do when they're excited or whatever to sort of self-regulate. Think about us. We might, bite our nails or tap. Some of us, a cute guy comes, you twirl your hair. That's all stimming. So the daughter starts doing this, and the staff at the restaurant starts staring, and they keep staring to the point where she walked up and she asked them to get the food. No, she told her, can I get my food to go? And they had their mother-daughter lunch date eating food in their car because of the behaviors of people and the staring.
Yeah.
So, that is one of the stories. Some are hilarious. You watch it and you laugh. You go, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'd do if it happened to me. But then there's some of them that we're trying to get a point.
I think it's important to get those points across, because it might seem like it has so little effect, but it makes you feel out of place. And it's easy to feel out of place, I can imagine. And so we have a lot of work to do, and that's heartbreaking. As a parent, you wish nothing more for your child to be loved and accepted by the world.
Exactly.
And so things like that can really break your day.
Yeah.
Right. So this story with Maya, where is the spoon?
Tell us about Maya.
She begins by I know you know the story, but I just want to share the best.
Go for it. I love it.
And because I eat with a spoon, everything I eat with a spoon.
You're one of those.
Because then you have to take your time. It keeps falling off the fire. I eat everything with a spoon.
Okay.
And so I clicked immediately when I saw a spoon there. She begins by just talking about spoons are always going missing in her house, and we all know how that is when you can't find your spoons and your cutlery. And so I just wanted to share, there's a picture of her little girl, Maya, that I want you to see. She says for some reason, every single time she wants a spoon, she can't find it. But this is a section I like. Autism comes with many challenges, right? Doing things the typical way sometimes seem impossible. And this was a big challenge for her because she knows her daughter is diagnosed with autism. But she said, I was determined to teach her how to be normal, how to talk normal, how to play normal, eat normal, sleep normal, and just behave normal. right? And she said she knows this sounds bad and she feels bad about it. But whenever she tries to do something, she kind of puts her in this box of what's normal. And she said, I opened my eyes. Maya saw the world in an entirely different way that I couldn't understand. Instead of stopping her from spinning, I should have noticed how incredible, graceful she was, dancing like a ballerina with her brightest smile. Instead of correcting her when she says Mayan, instead of saying it's lion, she should have just gotten on all fours and said her.
Exactly.
You know, but the part I like about that is that she felt like she had to make her child normal, even though she knew, she felt like she had to.
I commend that parent because she reached out to me, it must have been over a year ago, as she was starting the diagnosis. And the fact that she's gone from there to there in a year is amazing, because sometimes it takes families years. We spend so much time trying to fix our kids instead of just accepting that it's a different world and we're not going to be able to just keep them in this box or push them into this box. That takes a while for a family to get to. And the fact that Jar got there so fast, I commend that mom, because that is very, very key in terms of the full acceptance of our children. I always tell parents too that I would say, you know, I think the normal is sort of overrated. Even God created planets that spin.
Diverse.
Right? Even the planet spins. So spinning and twirling and flapping might not necessarily be that bad a thing. But it's easy to talk about. But when you have your own child, and like you said, you want them to be accepted and loved, and you want them to do this and that, we have these roads from you are pregnant. You're already thinking about where your kid will go. And when they're born with whatever disability, it's not just autism, it could be any of them, all of a sudden you realize your road has changed. And it takes a while for families to accept that, yes, the road is different, but it's not necessarily a bad thing, right?
It's a beautiful place.
It can still end up in a really beautiful place, and they can still do pretty amazing things. We just have to stop and really.
And that's what I got from that little blog, that if she could have, you know, felt that way, how many times are we in the outside community doing the same thing, like forcing, you know, people to fit in and not being able to accept, instead of identifying that this is a different, beautiful world. We try to curb and try to coerce. And I think what you're doing is amazing, because you give lens. The picture has a little heart glasses, you know, and it's literally symbolic of looking into the world. We have to be the ones to see that it's an entirely different world. She said when she was organizing the letters, Maya, on the fridge, she had them all jumbled wrong, but then she realized she had them color coded by colors instead of by reading out a word. So if we stop, you know, and we listen, we quiet ourselves, and we can see that really it's just a different but equally beautiful world, right?
It really
so that's what I love the most about that story. But that's just one of them.
You really should.
That you do. You have so many other things. Tell me about this SJC collaboration.
Oh, okay. Well, around Christmas, we launched our first Inspirational coloring book. All the artwork was done by SJC high school students. We asked some of their art students, and it was a challenge because they weren't in person yet. So we got a group of them to do it. So all the work are done by our SJC boys. But it also included a couple crossword about disability and inclusion. Every art piece had a quote that dealt with disabilities, inclusion, acceptance, promoting kindness, that sort of theme. So we called it Inspirational, and it's not a child's coloring book, it's a coloring book for adults. The idea is the mental health thing. A lot of our families, the stress, every one of us, you know this, it's been hard times with COVID. And so even if you can take 5 minutes to pick up a coloring pencil and color and lose yourself in this, there's all this science to how coloring isn't just for kids anymore, it's for adults and for mental health. So we still, so we started selling it about Christmas, and we still have some books if anybody wants. I was really impressed at how it turned out, and I do hope that by next year, November, we want to have a second edition.
I think it's beautiful. I don't think we realize as adults how calming it is to just take 5 minutes, and coloring art is something so peaceful. Just take that break, and it has these inspirational messages. I love that you said it's for the adults, not for the children.
This is for the adults. Whenever we've done something, I don't want to just sell something just to sell something or whatever. We want to make sure that we're tying it back and we're linking it to our objectives for Autism Belize. And so for Inspirational, we looked at it as promoting mental health, taking the time for caregivers to understand that it's important to take that wellness break for your mental health. That's really important. We want to engage our community. So the SJC kids, we gave them the quotes and said, we want you to think about this and see what you come up with. We didn't say, just go and draw something. We wanted them to say they got to listen. They chose the quote that meant something to them or that just grabbed them in some way and then did that. So we really wanted to, and that's where a couple of the crossword puzzles came into. So we feel that, you can take the time, but you'll be circling inclusion and different things and just learning, accepting, doing that. So we want our things to have meaning and purpose.
Always.
What we do.
I love that you got them invested, because then it's not just to do something as a high school student. It's about learning, understanding, and you becoming an agent as well. So I love that. There's this out of the box pop-up initiative.
Out of the box today. I'm missing it right now. It's our first day. We have a pop-up shop. Okay. We called it Out of the Box Art, and it's being held for the first time ever at the Tourist Village today.
Right now.
Right now. We got artwork from youths with disabilities from across the country. We have a young lady from PG who's in a wheelchair, has issues with her hand but still weaves. We have someone that does painting from Belmopan with her toes and artwork with her toes, and very much religious and really good messages with the pieces. We have two boys that go to Stella Maris who are on the spectrum that do little toy figurines. So a variety of different artwork from youth with disabilities, but it's not just about selling the work to help them, because they get the money back for the artwork that we sell. The artists set the price for their work and we're selling it, and they will get back the money for whatever we sell. They get that. But again, because we want meaning and purpose, we've identified some students from Stella Maris who are there learning how to sell today. So they're with our therapists from Therapy Adventures who are here in country, and they're working with them, showing them the money exchange, how to deal with the customers, what it is, and we have the cards with the bio for the different artists. So you buy the artwork, you'll get the art card so the tourists can go back and say, this was done by this person with this disability. There's a write-up. And so we can train them. And the hope is that if we get the students to the level that they can do this on their own, then we can try and get the same stores, maybe at the tourist village, to hire them to sell in the other stores. And then we can bring other students or youth with disabilities to come and learn. So the products are done by youths with disabilities, a variety of disabilities. The sellers are youths with disabilities as well. And the hope is it might get them some job.
Definitely. It's really hard to strike that balance. Sometimes we get invested in these projects and we do things for the audience. We do things for the children, but you found a way to do things for them and to actually include them.
There's a quote that we use all the time.
Activity you do.
Nothing about us without us. So the idea is if we're going to do something, it has to be, and because we're a parent organization, I wanted to either include our families, our parents, and whatever, because they need the support, or our persons with disabilities too. So in this case, it really is about our youth with disabilities and highlighting their amazing abilities, and also teaching those that might not be artistic, but can communicate and sell and everything else, and hopefully get them some jobs.
Thinking about their futures, that's amazing. I love that so much. Yeah. I just wanted you to share, there's a training, I know the last time you spoke about the paraprofessional training, but you have an initiative right now that's starting in May.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about
our second one? Okay. Well, we do trainings every month, but this is a specific series. What we've noticed since school has gone back in person. A lot of daycare providers, preschool teachers, and parents have been reaching out. I unfortunately have not been able to keep up with the amount of parents who are contacting me. In April, there were some days where I got 5 or 6 new parents, and each one, like, I like to talk to them. So it's about an hour as we go through what resources are available, how we can help, all of that. And it's been overwhelming how many people have concerns. And what I recognize, and I kind of termed it the COVID effect. We don't know if these developmental delays, the concerns we're seeing with some of our young kids, I'm talking toddlers, 3, 4, 5, 6-year-olds, if this is autism, if this is a speech impairment, if this is just a developmental delay. I'm not sure what it is, because we have to take into account the COVID effect. A lot of these kids should have been in school, whether daycare, preschool, for the past 2 years, and they weren't. So if they are only children, if they were just being watched by a nanny, and so we don't know how much engagement we had. A lot of our nannies, might not be, they might be speaking Spanish, the parents are speaking English. That could have caused a language delay. The lack of the stimulation, the work. We know that COVID has had effect across the board on all our children. But especially for our younger ones, we have a concern. Our daycare providers are talking about kids who aren't potty trained when they should be, who aren't talking as much as they should, who might not have the proper fine motor skills, or just those who have had behavioral issues. They don't know how to wait their turn or share or whatever, because they've never had to. If they've been just at home with their family, they've never had to learn how to stand in line and take turns. And we've completely underestimated the value of play and the value of early stimulation and early intervention. Putting our kids into these systems from 3 years old to get that, watch the other kids, that social interaction, the things that when teachers are doing peekaboo and circle time and clean up. Correct. Our kids weren't getting those for 2 years. And so we have a lot of kids countrywide who are developmental delayed, whether it's just because of COVID or if there's something else going on. We're not sure yet.
That's such a critical observation. I think that you guys have, jumped in and saw
this has been something we talked about. We talked about Ministry of Education. Human Development reached out to us too, and they're like, listen, our daycare providers. I'm like, I know. Someone called me from a daycare and said they have 4 kids they're concerned about. So all of us started talking, and we said we needed to do something. So we launched our Baby Steps, our early intervention series. That's what we called it. And it's 7 trainings in 7 weeks. So we had our first one last week, and that dealt with identifying the delays, because a lot of new parents don't know where their kids should be. So, you'll say, oh, my kid is talking, and I go, okay, how old is he? And they go, 3. And I go, how many words? And they're like, oh, well, maybe 10, 15 words. I go, okay, well, a child at 3 should already be putting 2 and 3 word sentences together. They should be asking who, what, why, when, where. And some of our new parents don't know this. So, and even some of our teachers, we need to know where they're at. So the first one was sort of an overview to talk about where the children should be at the different levels and identifying delays. So we know if your child isn't doing this or isn't here where they should be on the cognitive level, on growth skills, should they be riding a bike? How should they be walking up the stairs? All of these things, holding a pencil. If your child is only going up the stair 1 foot instead of individually, this is a sign for something. So we talked about that in the first session. And then every week we have different ones. So today we're doing on the flyer.
The Baby Steps flyer.
So today we're doing fine motor toolbox, activities and strategies. So how can we strengthen the fine motor skills for pencil writing and everything? And then the next 3 sessions address behaviors, understanding why we have challenging behaviors. And then the next one will be antecedent behaviors, what happens before the behavior, how we can work on it. And then the consequences, because the idea is how do we manage these behaviors for successful outcomes. And then the remaining training is about promoting language and speech, and then potty training, because we know we have a lot of delays there too. So 7 different topics in 7 weeks. If you are a parent with a toddler, a young child that you're concerned about some developmental delays, you can go on our website to sign up. If you're a daycare provider, you can sign up on our website. These are free. They're in the evenings. Most of them are after work. I think one is like 4:30 because of time change with our professional. So it's by Zoom. You sign up for free. We send you the link. It's not too late to sign up.
Oh, is this about
Right.
that?
If you are a teacher and you teach early elementary, preschool, and you want to do this, you sign up through the Teacher Learning Institute. It's free again. You just sign there. And yes, there's CPD credits available for teachers. You'll have to attend and do some homework, but then you'll get your CPD hours. But our daycare providers, our parents, anyone who is interested, basically, you can sign up through autismbelize.org. And these are free. So for the next, well, now this is week 6. So we've got 6 weeks of sessions more to do for that.
I think that's a great initiative. And what I'm thinking about is I'm not sure how it transfers over in terms of, you said the CPD certificate.
The CPDs are the continuous professional development credits that teachers need. To get their license, they need a certain amount of hours to renew their license. So they get that. So they get a certificate through the TLI for that towards their hours. For the daycare providers and the parents and anyone who signs up through Autism Belize, you do get a certificate of attendance that we email out. So you can do that. Some of our families, our moms are very proud of their collection of certificates of the trainings that we've done, because we've done over 20 in the last 2 years.
Because I can imagine that if you have one of these certificates, it makes you more susceptible to get a job in terms of assisting a parent with a child, because it shows that you've had that training.
And that's what some of the schools are doing, you know. When we send our flyers to like Horizon or whatever, they encourage all of their teachers because they know that this will benefit them. So yes, you can show your certificates. It could be just a personal pride, but it can also show that you are taking the time out to learn to work with children with disabilities. And these trainings are evidence-based intervention. So they can be used for any sort of learning disability, Down syndrome, autism. They are the same ways that you would teach any of these different kids. So it's not just about autism, just to be clear.
I love that you said it's evidence-based, because it's not just like we're having an advocacy workshop and
no, these
are
actual trainings. They're evidence-based. They've been studied for years. Most of our professionals that are doing that are certified therapists or professors that are teaching graduate level courses at universities. So we have highly qualified trainers for that.
You know, as we wrap it up, Ms. Christy, I just wanted to say that when I heard about the trainings that you're doing, I think that it's important not just for children on the spectrum or with disabilities, but it also brings attention to regular parents, because there's been a gap in psychosocial development during these 2 years.
Yes.
For, you know, that COVID, and it's, even if your child is not on the spectrum or has a disability, it is bringing awareness to parents to be more responsible, attentive, to watch their kids, to pay attention.
Even to manage some of the behaviors.
Correct.
You might not have a diagnosis, but you have a young child who's having a lot of tantrums or not getting the word no or having some of these issues. The same interventions we would do to manage a behavior, the ABCs of behavior, we talk about it. This is what you do for the same thing. So this, and I've had parents that'll call me and are like, but my son isn't autistic, but I'm interested in this. And I said, that's fine. We're not going to do, no, you can sign up. And so some of the trainings are that, you know, you have kids that we've had different trainings on challenging behaviors, and we have some of them that have some emotional issues or behavioral issues, and you can use these same sort of interventions that we teach to deal with it, like positive reinforcement. You know, how do we manage, because we know now, right, we can't, sometimes punishment or whatever won't work with our kids, right? They said, damn it, and that won't work with our kids. They don't even need a disability. But we teach ways on how to work and teach your kids proper discipline, proper behaviors, all of that. Yeah.
You know, Miss Christy, it's we could never finish everything in the short time that we have. And we want to leave time for a video, a cute little video from our children singing a special song. I am a promise. But just before we get to that video, I'm going to allow you to, is there anything you want to share with our viewers that we miss, promotional that's coming up or that's important? Just some closing remarks.
I think you guys gave me so much time, so I'm really grateful for that. I want to say thank you, especially to a lot of our businesses that supported us. For April, Crystal Water, who gave Countrywide, Smart, the big group that they came out, BEL for the trainings and everything that invited us in. Digi has been a constant supporter. So I want to say thank you to them. And I want to encourage all of you out there. Our trainings, we don't charge for. To come into your company to talk about disability inclusion, how you can make this happen, how can you hire persons with disabilities, what are these disabilities, all of these things. These aren't things that will cost you. All we want to do is provide the information you need, the awareness, in the hopes that for us that it will lead to the acceptance and the support that we need countrywide. So if you have questions, if you think there's a way you can support us or that we can support you, please reach out and let us know. And if you have a child with any sort of developmental delay, it does not have to be that A word that's so scary. But if you are seeing behaviors or delays, if your child is falling behind and you think it's because of COVID, also reach out. We can help with that. So thank you again for listening, for your attention and your continuous support here. I really love when I come here because you let me ramble. But we are here to support. So please feel free to contact us.
Thank you so much, Miss Christy. To our viewers, if you want more information, please check in the comment section. We post the website, and so that you have access to that information as well. And with no further ado, let's take it to our children. Thank you for joining us on Defining Your Health this week. We spoke about autism awareness, and we hope it was a blessing to you.
I am a promise, I am a possibility, I am a promise. With a capital P, I am a great big bundle of potentiality. And I am learning to hear God's voice, and I am trying to make the right choice. I am a promise to be anything that wants me to be. I can go anywhere that He wants me to go. I can be anything that He wants me to be. I can climb the high mountains, I can cross the wide sea. I am a great big promise, you see. I am a promise, I am a possibility, I am a promise. With a capital P, I am a great big bundle of potentiality. And I am learning to hear God's voice, and I am trying to make the right choice. I am a promise to be anything that wants me to be. I am a promise.